Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore
strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before.
I sort of explained it like a Western, like Wagon Train to the Stars. They have a zap gun instead of a 6-shooter, so they don't ride a horse, they ride a spaceship. But I was telling them, hey, fellas, it's just as exciting, you know.
I believe there's some hope for you after all, Mr. Spock.
The voyages of the Starship Enterprise were underway. But it would be far from smooth sailing for Gene Roddenberry, either in front of the camera or behind it.
What was it like to work with Gene Roddenberry?
Gene was very special. I mean, only Gene could create a show like Star Trek. In many ways, he really was a visionary.
I guess Star Trek had its first beginnings in the fact that as a child I was different, handicapped. I had difficulty breathing, eyes that didn't work well in bright sunlight, spindly-legged, weak, uncoordinated. I wasn't a very pretty thing. I became a reader. Thank God I became a reader. I lived in a dream world because it was a hell of a lot better world. I was Dr. Doolittle. I was Zane Grey's lonely cowboy, an explorer. Lots of it trash. I was an Indian fighter, fearless soldier, a fighter race. If you read Peanuts, I was Snoopy. I fought the Red Baron many times. Certainly, part of Star Trek was written by that boy.
Someone who brought a whole different perspective to television. But what Gene did with Star Trek was to use television at the time when the nation was turbulent with political, social, cultural change. And so what Gene did was he used science fiction as a metaphor to comment on these issues.
And the strength of this starship is in its pluralism, different cultures coming together, working as a team. It was science fiction that had a contemporary punch, and I wanted to be a part of it.
It was very, very current, very much in touch with the zeitgeist, what's going on in the world. Vietnam was going on, Martin Luther King was going on, the civil rights movements and so forth, all happening all around us, and I was very much in tune with it.
I was told that there was someone who wanted to meet me, and I thought it was a fan. And I turned and looked in the face of Dr. Martin Luther King. And he smiled with that marvelous face and said, "Yes, I am the avid fan." And he convinced me that I absolutely could not leave the show. I had a responsibility. He was out there working on civil rights so that I could be, and people like me could be on that television.
The quality of the scripts declined the third season. It was Bug-Eyed Monsters. And it didn't have the kind of contemporary cutting edge that the first 2 seasons had.
I don't know what it is about the 70s or 60s where they would just have lights with no indication as to what they could possibly be.
The computers on this Enterprise are a series of like blocky red, green, and yellow lights.
We can't seem to in movies envision really what the future of technology will look like, and it's like this disco machine mixed with extreme close-ups of people's mouths.
There's intense, focus right here and then right here.
Someone's been watching Sergio Leone, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly that same week when they shot this.
2001: A Space Odyssey did that, right? They did extreme close-ups on the mouths and we're like, oh, the computer can read lips. And somehow that was really cool. And here you're just staring at his gums going, oh God, what is that? What causes that? Is he a smoker?
They must go crazy on the bridge, because it's like anytime the computer does something, it's like someone's in the back with like a crank. Like.
The Enterprise has some really bad hard drives, because you hear the grinding away.
Well, what's funny to me is that they all have to identify themselves of the USS Enterprise.
This is Captain James Kirk of the USS Enterprise.
So it's like, this is James T. Kirk from you, I'm in you.
I'm in you.
I can't really say that I'm infatuated with Spock as much as I am infatuated and just in awe of his eyebrows.
For whatever reason, everybody in sci-fi decided, I guess in the 50s, that all computers, when they were going to speak, were going to speak, and we're going to speak in monotone.
Destruct sequence completed and engaged.
Maybe your whole family talks like
Self-destruct.
that. How was dinner? It's a little dry.
Which is interesting because computers didn't speak at all, but when they started speaking, they did speak like that. And Stephen Hawking still speaks like that.
What is it like being you? Because the fan base is enormous.
Yeah.
Can you go anywhere and do anything you want?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of trouble with that. I really don't. And every once in a while I have a very nice conversation with somebody who has some interesting reason for wanting to talk. So that works out okay. Sometimes it's troublesome and you have to kind of find a way to extricate yourself, but I don't consider it a problem. When people lose interest in you, that's a problem.
Exactly.
Very early in the third season, it was already known that we were not going to be picked up. So it was sort of like just finishing out the assignment for a lot of people.
I was getting a divorce or just divorced, and that took all the money I had made in Star Trek. So now I was pretty much busted out.
It was total silence. And I found myself at a very bad place psychologically because I didn't know what to do with my life. It was very unstructured. I mean, I didn't know what the reason was to get out of bed in the morning.
There was something like 110,000 letters came in a 4 or 5 week period. They were really inundated. There was some successful chain letter networkings done. People put out word and said to 10 people, you talk to 10 people, and the audience that we had was not large, but it was intense and vocal.
I had a friend of mine, an executive at NBC, who went to his car in the NBC secured parking lot, and someone had written on his car, "Don't cancel Star Trek." I mean, the CIA should be as good as these guys were.
NBC, on air, at the end of one of the episodes, announced that Star Trek would be back the following season, and the legend was they did that to stop the mail from coming. So I guess it worked.
I got a call from New York saying that they're having a convention. I thought, convention? That's a little exaggerated, isn't it? Because I hope they don't expect me to fly out, all the way there. And they said they would pay my way. I said, these women are mad.
I'm told that already for this one there are 10,000 people pre-registered, and the expectation is for 30,000 people to attend.
It was an amazing discovery, and this was just 2 years after cancellation.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Oh, that's a large turnout. Is that for you or for me?
Have a nice future.
Cool, just like in Star Trek. Oh!
To Sheldon, live long and prosper. Leonard Nimoy.
He came into the restaurant. Sorry, the napkin's dirty. He wiped his mouth with it.
I possess the DNA of Leonard Nimoy.
So this total failure from a television point of view, from a financial point of view, but never, never from a fan point of view, has turned out to be the largest property worth billions.
And marker. And action.
Thank whatever created us. We are different, each of us and everything around us. To the end of time, if it ever does end, no combination will ever come up quite the same. That's quite a travel package. All of this is how Star Trek began, and it's also something of what it's about. I am an alien, and so are you. And yet, and this is the loveliest thing of all, somehow we're also part of each other and part of everything that is. I don't know if this has a moral or not. Maybe it's don't sit inside soap gardens too long, unless you enjoy traveling.
I just wanted to share with you something that may lift your spirits as it did mine those many years ago. All that nonsense about the dangers of mixed races living together on a spaceship or anywhere, and how some parts of our country were certain to refuse to televise Star Trek because we showed such things. The hatred that would supposedly flood our mail, turning sponsors against us. In all the years of Star Trek, we never received so much as one such letter. Not one. Humans are capable of so much more than we yet understand. We're really something. Star Trek fans believe that. And so do I. For us,